How has your job and your ability to learn this business changed since you went inside the machine?
Essentially, when I started with you and when I was interning, I was meeting all of these really high-level executives, and they were looking at me as your intern. It was difficult to network with those kinds of people because I didn't necessarily have anything to offer them. But now I'm doing business with them.
Yeah, baby. Woo! I love that. Good morning, folks, and welcome to RenmanMusicandBusiness.com. My name's Steve Rennie, and I am the Renman. That's what it says there. This little program is called Renman Live. If you haven't been paying attention, for about 3 years now, plus, we've been getting together with some of the smartest, most talented, most successful people in this wacky music business to talk shop and figure out what it takes to make something happen. So, if you are out there looking to do something big in the music business, whether you're an artist, whether you're a music professional, you're in the right place here today. This week on the program, I'm going to take some time to answer questions that have been posted in various places around the web, questions that are keeping artists and professionals up at night. We call this little segment, or this version of Renman Live, we call it Ask Renman Live. And joining me today will be music attorney Ms. Audrey Ben-Walid, who's a friend of RenmanMB. We'll talk about that more. She's a top music business attorney. She's going to help me with all your legal and contractual questions that you folks submitted this week. It's tough to find a good lawyer, tough to pay them. Today, you can find one and not have to pay them, so what could be better than that? I'm also going to talk to a gentleman by the name of David Franz, who works with lynda.com/LinkedIn, to talk about a brand new relationship we've got with those folks to help folks around this world learn more about this wonderful business we call show business, music business to be specifically. But before we do that, like I said, if you're looking to do something big in this business, you'll likely need some help, and I know I do here. So let me introduce you to my wonderfully talented Renman Live team. Over there in the corner on the keyboards, look at him with serenity. His name is Joseph Pepe. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. But he's a Cali dude right now. You moving back anytime soon, Joe?
Not at all. I mean, I'm loving the 65-degree weather.
Loving the 65. It was a little chilly this morning when we woke up here, you know. You guys sucking up. How's things going? I know you didn't come out to L.A. to work with me, Joe, but everybody needs a day gig. How you doing over there?
I'm doing great.
What's going on with the band? Joe's in a band called Sleepless.
I am, yeah. Actually, the band just signed a licensing deal with Bun and Murray, so we'll be doing some TV syncs in the near future, and then we've got a bunch of shows booked and some new songs on the way. So
okay, come back to me a little bit. We talk about Joseph here. That's why Joseph, he gets on camera, the fucking rock star. He's like, forget who the freaking proprietor is here. Joe is a networking animal. We talk a lot about how you got to meet people in this business, and I'm always amazed in seeing Joe out here for now, what, 3 months, Joe?
About 3 months, yeah.
Now you can flip back and forth, Joe. This is professional. Stay with me here. Do I have to do everything? Jeez, okay. Anyway, Joe, tell me about who you've been meeting this week. I'm very impressed with your list of meetings.
Oh, yeah. You know, I've been, have some friends over at Columbia Records now. I have a few people, a few managers. Manager from Taking Back Sunday is one of my good friends. Who else? A few, like I said, some licensing people, a few booking agents I've had some meetings with, you know, so it's making the rounds.
All right, good stuff. Yeah. Who's that handsome young man to your left? I know who he is. That's looking very enthusiastic. That's the name. His name is Evan Rennie. He's going to be presiding over the chat room here today for all you folks here. He's a student at the USC Thornton School of Music. How's things over at the camp there, Ev?
Good as always.
Good as always, you know. Evan finally sent me his report card. I pay all the bills, Joe. Come back. There you go, Joe. Stay with me, okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Pay all the bills, and it takes me a month, 2 months to get a report card. But Evan actually did pretty well. The one area that he could use a little improvement on, we're going to handle that today, because not only are you guys going to benefit from some experience from a proper music business attorney, so is my son Evan over there. Ev, let's talk about, let me show the folks how they can ask questions around here. Joe, first off, we have a saying around here.
You don't ask.
Well, let's try it again. Joe, there we go.
I saved you.
Hey, was that you who saved me?
Yeah.
Good stuff. You don't ask, you don't get. Let's do that again. You don't ask, you don't get. See, it's take two, folks. This is a nice work, but you know, we're dumb and persistent. If you want to learn something, you got to ask some questions, folks. We try to provide some places for you to do that. One of the places is in our chat room. Show them the chat room there, Joe. If you want to post a question today in the chat room, my son, Mr. Evan Rennie, will be over there presiding over the chat board. He's got a brand new little whiteboard, you know, that that we can write questions. Show me your board there, Ev. Okay. Come back to him there, Joe. Show the boy here. Okay, now you guys come up with a great question. Evan's going to write it on there and flash it up to me. So make sure it's something really punchy and good. If you want to go old school, Joe, how would they do that? Hotline. God, you're getting good at this. 310-469-9067. Now, you know, I will say this, Joe. We've had, what, 3 calls already this morning? Yeah. From folks that are showing up early, which always makes me think more of you. So hopefully you guys will call in a little later during the show and we'll get your questions asked. Okay, I think that is it on that front. Don't be shy, folks, and call in on the broadcast and you move to the front of the line. Okay, we're going to answer some questions right now. I told you we call this segment Ask Renman. Not Cody, Pepe. So let's start off, Joe, by showing him that. Oh, God, it's a beautiful thing here. Ask Renman. Answers to your music business questions. That's right, you ask, I deliver. Our first question today has to do with touring. Touring's a big part of the business. It's a big money maker if you get it right. It's part of the whole marketing side of this company. But not everybody loves touring. And having spent enough time in airplanes and airports, in the back of vans, traveling all around this world, in style and comfort, not to gloat, but just to say that we had it easy. Touring is not as easy as it looks sometimes. So I want to show our first question here today. It's from a gentleman by the name of Mr. Picarillo. I'm not sure where he's from, but anyway, I'll read you the question. It says, I'm in a band. My issue is I don't have a desire to tour. I wouldn't mind going on a 3 or 4 day trip once in a month or so, but I don't want to hop on a bus for 20, 30, or 40 days at a time. If we don't do big tours, are we doomed to small town status is the question. Well, you can come back to me now, Joe. Mr. Picarillo, I will say that you sound like a grizzly old veteran that's done 1,500 shows around the world. I'll just say that I've heard that, that stream of thought before in my days here. And but let me answer your question. Can you have success out there, folks, without being a touring act? And the answer to that question is yes. Of course you can, right? And the best way to do that, the best way to have success, period, and then touring will be a byproduct of that, is to get your music heard, right? So if you are out trying to build a local following and hone your chops as a performer, terrific. But you can only get so far without getting your music heard wider. So if you're getting your music heard on radio, for example, you're all over radio, you're all over YouTube, you are all over SoundCloud and Spotify and all the places where people can listen to music, right? Then you can have success in the music business, right? So that's the most important thing. That getting heard is the biggest driver of demand. And then when you do get that, you'll have the option to have a live touring business, right? And the thing that you need to understand is the more airplay you get, the bigger and more lucrative that live business is going to be, right? There's been some artists out there that had a lot of success selling records and making a lot of money that haven't toured a ton. Adele, all things considering, with as much success as she's had, hasn't been a touring animal the way some of the rock bands that I grew up with were. So, but she does point up an interesting bit of touring strategy that, again, is somewhere down the line. I used to kid around with my former clients in Incubus that the best touring strategy was less dates, more money, right? Because the less you play, the more likely it is somebody will want to see you when you do play, particularly if you've had a ton of airplay. So proof in the pudding, Adele, who hasn't toured that much so far in her career by some standards, is going to be doing a lot of touring on this next record. I think she's got, what, 5 or 6 nights sold out here in L.A. Here's some other things to think about, though, Piccarello, when you're thinking about the touring. As I mentioned, it's a big money maker, okay? So if your goal in having success is to actually make a living at this, I'll tell you that you can leave a lot of money on the table when you're not out there touring, but I do understand that it's a lot of work. Something else to think about in the early days, that touring is a big part of the marketing plan in getting your music heard. So if you're lucky enough to sign to a record label and they're lucky enough to get you on the radio, you showing up in those markets and sometimes playing radio shows or showing up in a market even before you've gotten airplay, and then the label can bring radio programmers out to see your show. It's an important part of that marketing mix. It gives retail people a chance to see you. It gets press a chance to see you. So while I certainly understand that touring is tough and takes a lot of time and energy, it is an important piece of the puzzle. But if you can get on the radio, if you can get heard, then you might have my perfect touring strategy. Less dates, more money. All right, does that answer the question there, Joe? Oh, yeah. All right, how we doing over there? Is everybody able to hear us okay? We got folks in the chat room? Awesome. Okay. That's question number 1. Let's go and talk about another question we have here. Social media plays an important role in today's world. And it's not just in music, it's in politics, in terrorism, you name it. People are taking their story, whatever it might be, and putting it out there for the world to see. That last week I was watching one of the presidential debates, and it was sponsored by Google, and they were using social media to push people out. They were having YouTube stars weigh in with questions and so forth. So whether you love it or hate it, it's a big, big part of our music business landscape. Hang on, let me take a cup of coffee here. Sorry, folks, but come on. If you were sitting in my office on my couch over there, that's what we'd be doing. So here's what I want to say about social media. The fuel for social media is that you have a story that is interesting, that's compelling, that attracts attention and keeps people's attention. That is at the core of building your online music or your social media strategy. And so what that requires is a steady supply of activity. So if you're an artist and you're putting out music and you got a new song, you got something to talk about. If you are playing a gig in town, you've got something to talk about. Maybe you're doing a private show for some kind of charity and it has a compelling pull on the heartstrings. Then you've got something to talk about. Think of some of these outlets as part of a daily conversation, right? But most of it is going to be driven by activity. So you got to have something going on. That's the first step to it. Here's something I've learned about social media over the last few years. If you do have a story that's compelling and interesting and something that people would want to come back to frequently, there are any number of social media outlets out there now where you can tell that story. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Pinterest, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat. And I could go on and on and on. And here's what I've discovered. Each of those platforms requires a slightly different take on how you deliver your story. For example, Twitter seems to be more like talking around the water cooler, where it's something that's happening every day and it seems to be in the moment, right? Versus more of a long-term type of play. Facebook is about connecting people. And part of that connection is showing them pictures of your daily life, telling them stories about your daily life, maybe videos and so forth. But it's a little bit longer story, a little bit, a more full plate to tell your story there. When you're on Instagram, it seems like it's more like a picture version of the story of your life, and so forth. So the point of the message is, or the comment is that you need to be conscious of the platform you're working on. I'll give you a perfect example. If you go to our Facebook page today for RenmanMB, you'll see a bunch of posts in there where sometimes we just get a little mindless and lazy and just put stuff in there and we're just plug. And it doesn't get you as much traction as when you take the time. So, for example, you'll see a post in there about Audrey Ben Walid on Ask Renman Live. This week I was plugging Ask Renman Live, but I took the time to tell a little bit of a story and to introduce people in a little bit more clever way. And that post today, I think, got 6,000 views. Same story, Ask Renman Live at 10 a.m. with some of my friends, but it got a much better take. So best action to build a social media presence, got to have some activity. You're going to need a steady supply of it. You're going to need to figure out which of these music or social media platforms works best for your story and your storytelling technique. And then you're going to need to be clever about telling that story in a way that sounds brand new every day. All right? Does that answer the question there? How are we doing on time today, Joe? God, it's a rare moment that we're actually, on time today. Joe, any questions over there in the chat room, Ev? What's the question?
It's just about what should how much of the legal process should managers really have a hold on?
Okay, well I'll talk to that one and then we're going to move on. That's actually a great question. Who was the person that asked that question, Ev?
Mayo 91.
Mayo 91. I think I know Mayo 91. Is he from Norway?
Don't know, doesn't say.
Okay, well, let me give you some thoughts. We're going to have a real lawyer here today, and that's important. But most managers work closely with lawyers, right? And I think from a manager's perspective, you need to understand what the big pictures of the issues that you're talking about. So if it's a record deal, you need to understand what the 5 or 6 key gotta-haves is what I like to call them. You gotta have that. You gotta know what those gotta-haves are. Same's true in a publishing deal. You gotta know what the gotta-haves are. You gotta know where the traps are, right? And then the nuance and the detail, you can talk about intelligently with your lawyer, Mayo. So we talk a lot, or I talk a lot about this idea that you got to put together a team. If you're going to do something big, you need some help. And from a manager's perspective, one of the most important people on that team is your lawyer, right? And for me, the person that was probably the next most important person for me in that team was our agent, because touring was a big part of the bands and artists that I've worked with. So you got to be up to speed. You don't want to turn it all over to your lawyer. You have to have an understanding. But when you get a great lawyer, you have lunch and you talk about all those issues, you get educated about it. So you don't need to know everything. More important that you get the big picture, and then you know a real attorney that can get you through all the details. Okay, good question there. Okay, before I move on here, let's talk, speaking of social media and the like. Joe, let me take a moment here. If you want to follow us, folks, you can follow us on YouTube right there. YouTube.com/RenmanMB. We've got, 600, 700, 800 videos over there. It's so much it's hard to keep track of. I mentioned Facebook. You can grab us on Facebook right there. Facebook.com/RenmanMB as well. And that graphic, Joe, we got to tighten up the time on a little bit. And then you got us on Twitter, of course. How could we forget Twitter? That's where we do a lot of our talking. I spend a lot of time there, and I gotta confess, I actually kind of like it. It kills a lot of time out there when you've got something. And then finally, for all you folks that love behind-the-scenes pictures of dogs and pretty girls, you can find us on RenmanMB at Instagram as well. Okay, let's move on here today. Lawyers are an important part of this business. We talk about it again a lot. You got to have a team of people behind you that are going to help you make something happen so that you can concentrate on the music. And one of the most important people in that mix is your attorney. And I want to introduce a gal by the name of Audrey Ben-Walid, who's been not only a great attorney. She started here as an intern a while back, and she quickly, worked her way into my heart and mind and became, more than just an intern here. She helped me out as my kind of co-host on my show and so forth. We've stayed in touch. I'm so proud of what she's doing. She's now working for one of the top law firms in LA, and I wanted to have her on the show with me right now. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Audrey Ben-Walid? Can we hear Audrey? Can you hear me?
Hi, I can hear you.
Oh, God, we had such a train wreck here this morning. 2 in a row here, Joe. How you doing, Audrey?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. We've got a bunch of questions that were submitted this week, two-shot, Joe, of folks that are interested and have some questions about the legal side, the contractual side of the music business. So I want to start with a simple one here, Audrey, and throw it at you and get your legal opinion on it. Joe, question number 1, please. Put it up on the board.
Sure thing.
Okay, the question is, Audrey, it's from a gentleman by the name of John Lyle. It's when should artists copyright their material, and what steps do they need to follow to do that?
Okay, well, first you need to understand that, at least in the United States, a copyright occurs as soon as you embody the work into a physical form. So if you have a song that you've written, you have to make sure that you record it so that there is a physical format of that work. So let's say if you write a song and you go perform it live and somebody hears it and then they take it and they embody it in a recording, then they technically own the copyright. So what you want to do is, as long as you have a recording of it, you get common law or automatic copyright benefits.
Another question here, Audrey. That when you're talking about making that there's a physical copy, it can be pretty loose. You could record the lyrics on your cell phone, right? You can just scribble something on a piece, but it doesn't have to be an opus, is what I'm getting at.
No, not at all. It just needs to be in some sort of tangible format. That's it.
I have a question here today. It says, "Hi, Audrey and Steve. I'm from Argentina. Today, collaborating with musicians anywhere is becoming more and more common. Can you talk about the copyright royalties at a global level, and how do you protect the work and give everyone a peace of mind?"
What normally happens in the pop world is you have a really big artist, you have a really big writer, and then maybe you have a new writer that doesn't have a track record. So what you'll have to do is negotiate what the splits are on that song, and you'll have to create a contract between all of the songwriters which states who owns what percentage of that song. So maybe if you're writing with Jennifer Lopez, she'll end up getting a bigger cut than, Audrey Benwally will. So,
yeah.
So that's also, it just has to do with negotiation as well. So definitely a contract for the songwriter splits, and then those songwriter splits need to be registered. If anybody has a publisher, you must register them, and also you have to register them with ASCAP or BMI, because they'll be collecting the performance royalties for all of the writers, and they'll have to know how the song is divvied up.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Audrey brings up an interesting point here when you're first starting in the business, right? Getting started is a tough part. So, I think I could just feel some of our members out there cringing. But if three of us wrote the song, why wouldn't I have my equal share of it, right? And it really speaks to that leverage side of the business and what it takes to get started. If you're writing a song with Max Martin today, he's going to write most of it, I would think, and get the money for it. So, for artists out there, if you were giving advice to a young artist, Audrey was in a situation like this, and they were getting less than full share, what would you tell them?
I would say earn your stripes, like it's better to have 5% on a massive hit than to have 50% on a random song. It's a bigger pie, smaller piece of a bigger pie. It's worth it. So just, you have to build up your portfolio, and everybody goes through those growing pains.
Yeah, and I think it's really true. And I can remember different scenarios in my career where I thought I should get a bigger payday, and somebody reminded me, hey, why don't you show me more than one trick? Show me 2 or 3, and then you've earned your way into the game here. Good stuff. Audrey, I'm going to take a quick break here. People are always asking us about podcasts and the like here. So if you're looking to help us, are you looking to stay in touch with RenmanMB and take us with us on the road, you can check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud there, folks. And then you never have to be without us. A faux pas in all. Okay, back again. Audrey, I got a question for you, career question for you. This isn't for the folks out there. When you and I first met, you were a young lawyer, still a young lawyer, coming out here from Canada and wanted to be an intern, and you were just getting started in LA trying to meet folks. 2-3 years later now, 2.5 years later, you're now working for one of the top music business law firms in all of LA, and in the music business for that matter. How is your perspective, how is your job in your ability to learn this business change since you went inside the machine?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, and essentially, when I started with you and when I was interning, I was meeting all of these really high-level executives, and they were looking at me as your intern or the co-host or whatever it was. And so it was difficult to network with those kinds of people because I didn't necessarily have anything to offer them. So it was a lot of, asking for favors, asking questions, showing my enthusiasm and my passion. And people are gracious and would meet with me and all of that. But now I'm doing business with them. And, there are some of the guests that you've had on the show who I won't name that, I work for now, and I negotiate their deals. So the conversation is different. The leverage is different. The response time is fast. You become part of the machine as opposed to looking at from the outside and trying to get into it,
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I got to tell you, Audrey, I'm very proud of you. That's all I can say. And I'll make a prediction out there that when you're a great player and you get with more experienced folks, things just move a lot faster. When people are out there and they've made some great music and they're trying to get connected with a record label or a publisher or whatever it might be, right? You now have a sense of this notion of trusted source and what it means in the music business. The A&R folks, the publishing folks are very busy. And so deciding what they're going to listen to is a big part of what it is. One of our members had a question about this notion of lawyer is matchmaker. Would you throw it up there, Joe? Okay, the question is from Hunter. It says, I know music business lawyers are essential, Audrey, not just for legal needs, but also for being heard or pitched. I'm not really sure how the lawyers act as interim agents. Can you explain further? And he says, thank you, fuck the gatekeepers.
Thoughts, Hodge? Lawyers, there's a saying that goes, lawyers as rainmakers, and essentially lawyers know a lot of things before other people know those things just because of how entwined they are with the artist's lives. And so if an artist gets dropped from a label, the lawyer knows first because we're getting the release from the label. So, we're very much on the inside, and we can act as intermediaries or agents and make introductions that maybe would happen later if you're talking about someone like a manager or somebody else in the business. So I definitely think that lawyers can help pitch artists. It's just difficult to come to a lawyer as a new artist and say, hey, I have this record, but I don't have a record label. Can you help pitch me to the label? Unless the lawyer really believes in you. Shopping around to labels is a long and tedious process, and I think that I know lawyers at my firm are less excited about doing stuff like that. But if they have a client that is already, they have something going on and they can connect the dots and maybe they need a better manager. I've seen it happen countless times where, my boss will set up an artist with the best manager in the business just based on their relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you hit on something in there that's so important, the boss versus the junior partners in the firm here. You probably benefit now by some of those relationships that people like Eric Greenspan have, and it's those are incredibly important. But you hit something else that was interesting. Lawyers in this business, the really great lawyers, are not just doing it for the money. They're not going to take on anybody. You play an A&R kind of role yourself in it, don't you, Audrey?
Absolutely. And, I've seen some of the partners here take on some acts that are not well established yet. And, we don't necessarily work on a fee structure. A lot of the times music lawyers work on a 5% commission. So sometimes you take on a beginning artist knowing very well that you'll do work for basically no money. And that's what I love about my firm is that they're passionate about the music and they're willing to take those risks on artists that they truly believe in. And I actually have a couple of clients that I've brought in and are, developing with me. So that's where, as a young artist, you may want to find the young lawyer at the firm that is so hungry that they want to grow with an artist that hasn't already established themselves.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Audrey, here's a question we just had in the chat room, and then we got another one that was posted. They're all about this idea of management agreement. Is that what it was, Em? Okay. Flash the question up here, Joe, for us. Okay, we're going to go with the question. Okay, I got it. Joe, we have a question about the band manager agreement there. Jesus, guys. As a solo artist who plays and records with a full band, if I'm negotiating contracts for a management deal or a record deal, am I doing so on behalf of myself or the entire band? This is a gentleman who's a solo artist who's probably going to be hiring some band members. Are they part of the deal, Audrey?
Well, that's completely up to you, essentially. So if you're a solo artist and you're just hiring band members, if I were your lawyer, I would advise you to do the deals only for yourself and then have an agreement separately with the musicians, and they can be, you know, independent contractors or workers for hire, so that if ever you want to change up the members or whatever, they don't have, they're not tied to you in that way. So if you consider that you're in a group and you want a band partnership agreement and you want to split profits with them, then that's a relationship that you'll have to create, and you'll have to paper a deal within your band. If they're literally just musicians supporting you on the road, then no, you're only contracting with a record label or a publisher or whomever for yourself.
Yeah. You know, and having had some experience, you know, as a manager, these things all take on different shapes because it depends on the situation. And you and I have talked about this a million times, Odds. People are looking for nice, tidy answers, right? And,
yes.
and that nuance and context is everything in this business. All right, I know you're looking over your shoulder. I feel like I have Eric Greenspan looking over my shoulder here. So I'm going to see if I can get one more question out of you here.
Yeah.
We have a question about publishing and label deals. Would you put that one up there, Joe? The question is from Arnie Wall, who's a manager. He says, I manage a singer-songwriter. Would getting a publishing deal before a record contract still be a good idea?
Yes. If you want a short answer, yes. The long answer is publishing deals are very useful. They can get you a sum of money in advance in the same way that a record label can. You are giving away a piece of your copyright, but I think it's worth it, especially if the publisher is creatively in line with what you're doing and understands you. You know, if you sign to a major like a Sony ATV and there's no A&R there that understands your project or wants to work with you, then you might not really benefit that much aside from getting that advance. So I would say everything is about relationships. And if you have a publisher that believes in your project, then they can get you to the next level just as much as a record label can. Obviously, they don't do, you know, radio and certain artist services, but they can monetize your music. So yes.
Okay, and here's something I think that I want to bring up too. And for some of these folks, I love to try to make them understand what's going on about these things. When you get a publishing deal, somebody puts up some money, they believe they're going to get their publishing income back. And one of the ways to do that, folks, is through mechanical royalties. So if somebody's actually putting up money as a publisher, all of a sudden you got a new partner on your team that wants you to get a record deal who might actually help the same way Audrey's boss could turn somebody on to a manager to help them get a record deal. Let me ask you this, Audrey. If you got a record deal first, right? What's the chances, do your chances increase or decrease on getting a publishing deal?
They increase because a publisher wants to invest in something where they know the pipeline money is there or that it's coming quickly. And if they know that they have a label behind you that's investing in you and will help you get your record out, then money will be coming their way shortly. So obviously, the more players you have on your team, the more players will want to join the team. Yeah,
it's funny how that goes, Audrey, that if you're in business, people want to do more business with you. You know, nobody wants to hire an unemployed person. Nobody wants to manage a band that doesn't have a record deal or a publishing deal in front of you. So the answer to your question, Arnie, I think is, it doesn't matter which one comes first. When somebody starts putting their money down, you got a different conversation with folks. And if you get a published deal, you got a better chance for a record deal. You get a record deal, you got a much better chance for a published deal. In today's world, we don't have time to talk about it today, but Audrey could probably do an hour and a half on 360 deals where the same person might want to do all those things and be your partner on touring as well. So there you have it. All right, do we have a call on the phone there? Okay, we got David on the phone. Okay, great. Audrey, I want to say I'm proud of you again. And
I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for me, honestly. It's I talk about you a lot. You're still my music industry dad, I would say.
And if I ever had a daughter, I would have loved to have been as smart and pretty as Audrey Ben-Walid. Okay, back to work, Audrey. Tell Eric I owe him a round of golf. I'm sorry for stealing his girl.
All right, bye.
We'll see you again soon. Okay, great. All right, that's Audrey Ben-Walid. God, guys. Okay, when does a band agreement become relevant? Okay, that is a great question. Who asked that question? Vanessa Bodie. And then we got David on the line for real here? No, we're rolling here. Vanessa, when is the best time to have a band member agreement? Yeah. The truth of the matter is you probably couldn't have it too soon, right? Because it would never hurt you to have one in place. But I think the way bands actually come together is it'll start as kind of a hobby and a fun thing, and then it starts to grow, and then maybe now you're doing a gig, and now maybe you're thinking about putting out a record and somebody's putting up the money to do that. So I think the general rule of thumb is when it starts to look like some money could be coming down the line, when you start to buy equipment and vans and things that are a little bit more of an entanglement for you, then it's hugely important to put together that band member agreement. And it'll cover all kinds of things like publishing. It'll cover things like who owns the trademark. We're in Guns N' Roses. We're out of the band, and now Axl uses the name. All of those kind of issues will be covered in a band member agreement. And as I had Audrey on here today because it's so important to have a real attorney going through the details of those agreements. So when some money starts to look like it's coming into the equation, go ahead and think about that deal. And when you do make a band member agreement, make sure that you've actually done it with a real music business attorney like Audrey Ben-Walid. Okay, now, we got David on the phone there? Okay, back again. Throw him on. I want to hear him, all right? Okay, David, you there?
Yes, I am.
God, isn't it fucking funny, Dave, that in the great tradition of rock and roll, I swear to freaking God, no matter how many times you do stuff ahead of time, as soon as the show goes on, everything changes. So anyway, happy to have you back here. Let's flip the pig. There you go. There's David Franz, who, as I was saying a little bit earlier, is a musician, a composer. He's written books on how to use, Pro Tools and all kinds of things. But I met David through our course. He works at a great company called lynda.com. So if you're not familiar with lynda.com, tell the folks a little bit about lynda.com. Then I want to talk about your efforts in the music and our course being available to lynda.com users. Start with, what's lynda.com all about?
Sure. Lynda.com is an online training site where you can learn about all kinds of different stuff, from business courses to technology to, music and entertainment and creative aspects. So we have 4,000 courses online and a bunch in different languages as well. And in audio and music, we have over 200 courses on learning about your digital audio workstation, about mixing, about music business, music law, songwriting, all kinds of stuff.
Gotta love it. I'm flipping a couple of these graphics up there as we go. You guys are smart folks over there, David, and yet you decided to get in business with us. Talk about why you wanted to do something with our course here, if you would.
Well, music business is near and dear to my heart because I run 2 record labels and I'm working with a number of artists. And so I feel like I have a finger on the pulse of what artists need. And the music business has changed so much in the past decade. And I feel like, looking through your course, you have a great finger on it because you come from the bigger world of music, record labels, the big world of that, but also can talk to the independent artists and teach them all the stuff that they need to know. So that's who I want to connect with. Like, I want you to be able to connect with those people because they need it. Well, and now we have, with LinkedIn, we have this giant social media platform for you to get your message across to them.
Well, I appreciate being involved because I think there are so many people out there that are trying to make music, and then it turns out that that winds up being kind of the easy part of it. You know, in your music platform, you've got all kinds of different things covered, from how to make music. I put up your page right here, music production secrets and all of that. I think it's a great service that you're providing for folks to give them kind of what, you know, and this is the part about the whole music learning online thing that you and I have talked about. Today, there are so many great ways for people to learn about the music business, short of going to a college or, you know, somewhere else, that costs them a lot more money and so forth. Tell them how the course works once they sign up for lynda.com, for folks that aren't familiar.
Sure. It's $25 a month, and you get access to all 4,000 plus courses on the entire site. So not only do you get all of the music and audio stuff, but you can check out, you know, if you need to learn how to use Excel, or if you need to, you know, to learn how to take better photos of your band or your artists, or make a video or something like that. So you can learn all of that stuff for just $25 a month.
$25 a month. By the way, you know, for folks out there that are used to getting everything for free on the web, I think sometimes they cringe. But the folks, you know, for all the folks that are going to these big universities and stuff that are spending tens of thousands of dollars, like my son over there, this is the greatest deal going, and there's so much great things to learn over there that I love lynda.com, and I can't tell you how happy I am to be in business with you folks and to you know, have the people in your world. How many people a month are coming to lynda.com?
Well, obviously it fluctuates, and now that we're part of LinkedIn, the market has massively, you know, grown. There are 400 million members of LinkedIn, and clearly not all of them are on Lynda yet, but we're pushing towards, you know, including everybody. So it's a massive, massive operation.
Yeah, well, it's funny, when I was so happy to see, when I remember reading the announcement that LinkedIn had purchased lynda.com, I thought, what a great match it looked like on paper, where you have all these people, professional folks that are networking and trying to get ahead in their careers. And knowledge is power, no matter where you get it. And so I thought it was a great partnership there. I want to thank you, David, for taking the time to join us today. I want to thank you even more for helping us make our course available. I can tell all you folks out there that David is a very patient man. I'm not the easiest person to get along with sometimes. And he, without him, it wouldn't have happened. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And I look forward to having you back again here, and look forward to doing some more courses with you down the line.
Well, same here, and I'm excited. You know, each week we'll be dropping a new chapter from your course. So just as folks sign up and they check it out, they'll be seeing more and more content from you. So we're excited about that. I was excited to see it on there. I've sent it out. I've gotten already so many great comments from some of the lynda.com LinkedIn folks that I'm happy to be a part of it. So thank you for joining us. I apologize for all our rock and roll faux pas here today. If we were a band, we wouldn't be coming back to the gig again, that's for sure. At any rate. All right, David, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again soon, and I'll keep in touch, and I'll be looking every day on the page for lynda.com. That's lynda.com, folks. And once you get in, you can type Renman music biz. I think you'll find the course. All right? Terrific. All right, thanks a lot, David. Okay, that's it. All right, great guy, musician, love it. And so if you folks are looking to learn something and want a little bit different look at it, try lynda.com. All right, folks, that's it for today. Next week, we'll be back with a new show. I don't exactly know what we're going to be doing yet, but if you've signed up on our website and on our email list, we'll keep you in touch with everything that's going on here. If you're looking to learn more about the music business, there's lots of places to go, but I hope you keep showing up here at RenmanMB, where we can get you a place to ask all those smart people the questions that are keeping you up tonight. My name is Steve Rennie. This show's called Renman Live, and I am out of here. See ya. If you want to learn the music business, let me be your music business mentor. When you get done with my course, you won't be thinking like some rookie getting out of college. You'll think like a grizzly music business veteran.